Hi, everybody. Ed Bixby here from the Global Green Burial Alliance, and welcome to this month's edition of Ask an Expert live stream. Hybrid cemeteries, benefits for the cemetery and the family. Today, I will give you a personal tour of Westwood Hills Memorial Park located in Placerville, California. I will explain the benefits and importance of incorporating green burial options into your business model and how our families can benefit from these spaces. So without further ado, let's begin our tour. Oh, also, please do leave your questions in the chat box and we can answer them at the end. Okay, folks, let me reverse my camera here. If I can find it. Okay. So basically, let me do this, make life a little easier on myself. So welcome to Westwood Hills Memorial Park, located again in Northern California. It's a very beautiful location, uh, has been open since 1949. And the reason we're here today is that we want to be sure that everyone understands how important it is to incorporate greener options within our cemetery settings, not only for the business model itself, but for the actual families and their experience. So as you can see, Westwood Hills would be considered a hybrid model, a cemetery that has practiced traditional burial. You can see cremation niches, you can see mausoleums, you can see a lawn cemetery setting. But what we've done here a little different is incorporate greener options and in particular created different interactive experiences for our families when it comes to what they may experience here. So for instance, over here we have our Asian garden. And what this represents is direct in the earth cremains internment. So small spaces where the cremated remains are placed directly in the earth. And we've created a setting that, would be very serene and beautiful for families. Now, unlike many people who are here today who, are looking maybe possibly for the purest form, we have to remember that all greener options are really important. And a space like this is very beneficial for a cemetery because, as you can see, it's not a very large space, but it certainly does the trick when it comes to placing cremated remains in a small area uh, that doesn't require a lot of space. So all of these plots here are one by one, and they are direct ashes into the earth. And you can see that this is a really lovely little location where you can come and you can visit your loved one. You can sit here and reflect. We have a koi pond here in the back, which people, come and visit, believe it or not, on a daily basis. They bring their children. And it's really just a special space. And it's something that really can help the revenue stream of an existing cemetery by creating more revenue, but creating a lasting celebratory space for the families to be able to come and reflect and really feel good about. Because at the end of the day, we have to realize that's what's most important is, having spaces that are being used by the living. So as you can see, you may be able to, it's a little dark. You can see some of our fish in there. So a space like this is very, very important, but it doesn't have to be even as complex as something like this. So as we come along, I'm going to just kind of show you the grounds and give you an idea of what the personal experience would be here. It's very important, again, to realize that, we, of course, have preserves, we have natural burial grounds, we have hybrid cemeteries. All of these spaces matter. And the more intimate of an experience and the more beauty that you can infuse into your cemetery grounds, certainly the more appealing it will be to your families. So, a little, as you can see over here, this is a traditional cremains type of internment. In this Trinity Cross, but we tried to create a little bit of a different atmosphere with some fountains and statuary, because again, it's the overall experience for the families when they come here that's most important. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over to another area that I've created for natural cremains internment, which is actually a little bit more natural in the sense that we have the Asian garden, which is very beautiful, as you can see. But when we get to the Victorian Eternity Garden, you can do things a little differently there. And as you can see, we have our geese and their new babies enjoying the grounds and enjoying the pond. So as we come over here, I'm going to show you a little bit about what we have when it comes to the Victorian Eternity Garden and maybe what people could do in current cemetery spaces that might reflect something similar to what we've done here. So as we walk up, and again, I'll show you the local residents. We have quite a few local residents here, and they don't really want us too close to their babies, which we understand. So we'll take a little sidestep. But we're currently entering into the Victorian Eternity Garden. And you can see that it overlooks a beautiful serene pond. Again, we've put in some fountains and statuary to really, welcome people, because that's really what you're trying to do, create a space that's welcoming to families. Now here, we have the same type of scenario, but every one of these stones that you see that that line this trail system acts as a direct in the earth cremains burial space. Now, people on this call might say to themselves, you're talking an awful lot about cremation at the moment, and that's really not green. Well, we have to understand that, we're not going to stop the wheels of flame-based cremation. There are better options like aquamation and natural organic reduction. But of course, we still have families who have cremated remains, and they have to address the fact that they would like to find a forever place for those cremated remains. And, this is certainly a more environmentally friendly atmosphere to do so. Now, as we go along, though, we're going to get deeper into options that are certainly greener than what we're looking at now, all the way to the natural burial area. But you can see here that this is a very attractive space, and you can imagine why people would like to come here and pay their respects. And funny enough, in this particular garden area, we've had many wedding photos being taken, which is a testament to what you do. I mean, that's the kind of atmosphere that you're trying to create. You're trying to bring the living, to these spaces because they're beautiful. Now, as I walk along here, this particular garden area was, believe it or not, in what many cemeteries have already, areas that were not being used for active burial. I hate to use the word brush dump, but there's many cemeteries that will take the lesser desirable areas and create places to put, limbs and leaf litter and stuff like that. And we realized that this could serve a much higher purpose than that. So for any of the providers out there watching this, just understand that you can repurpose these areas. If they're suitable for burial, wonderful. That's the highest achievement. But if they're not, they certainly can serve a purpose for cremains. And again, you can see how naturally beautiful this entire space is. So as we make our way up, it's a little changing. And again, keep this in mind that, you can have a mix of cremation and you can have a mix of natural burial itself, which this particular area has the potential for that. We're not currently putting full body burials in this location, but in the future, we shall do that as we abandon the former area that was meant for leaf litter and branches. We will then recondition that area for burial itself. So there's a lot of potential for cemeteries who may say to themselves, we've run out of space and we're really not sure what we can or can't do about that. And, just using your imagination and trying to understand what you could or couldn't do can revitalize your cemetery. For instance, on this other side of the Eternity Garden, you can see we're currently restoring the greenhouse, which is available to our families. We have people who come here and they actually utilize these spaces, which is really important. So what we're going to do is, as I continue to talk to you, we're going to make our way up the hill. And again, what I would like to really reiterate to the people watching this today is that, we all strive for the greenest options possible. The low-hanging fruit within our movement at the moment is hybrid models. Cemeteries that not only adopt allowing natural burial throughout the cemetery itself, but creating spaces. And that's vitally important because what we do have to remember is that if every person were to plant a tree, for instance, in memory of their loved one, for every person who passed away, that would be a huge environmental impact. So that's really important for us to understand that, creating spaces within existing spaces really is the true pathway to creation of new conservation or natural spaces, because the success of the existing ones will then warrant the creation of the new ones. So it gives people the ability to be with their loved ones, within a space that might exist in their community, but have a greener option available. For instance, we here at Westwood Hills do not require an outer burial container in the entire cemetery itself. So if you would like to be next to your grandmother, your grandfather, or your husband or wife, and they're located, let's say, in a traditional area, you can be buried naturally in that area. And of course, environmentally, people may say that's not the same impact, but it is in the sense that you're able to have what you want. And there's a couple of things that I want to show to not only, our consumers that are on this call, but to the providers themselves about opportunities. A lot of these older cemeteries have limited opportunities, but by creating these living spaces for the community, you're bringing the living back. And then you might say, well, we're still limited as to what we can or cannot do. What I'm going to show you now has nothing to do with natural burial, but it has a lot to do with bringing the living to the spaces and then incorporating, greener practices. So when I turn this camera around, I'm going to show you a 1950s style mausoleum that when I acquired the cemetery, it was completely full. And to be quite honest with people who might not understand a mausoleum, they take a lot of upkeep and maintenance. And over time, if it's full and it's no longer producing revenue, it might become a deficit to the cemetery, not an asset. What I did was I looked at it and I said, how can I recreate this space in a way that's welcoming to the community, to bring them out and say to themselves that, this is actually beautiful. It's not archaic or dated looking anymore. It's something that really looks inviting. So we created, as I turn it around, we've actually added a second floor to the mausoleum, not for mausoleum burial, but to create an outdoor garden space for our family. So as I turn it around, you can see that what we did was we had taken this mausoleum that had none of this woodwork done. It was just all masonry, and we created this inviting space. And the reason being is that not only to honor the individuals that are buried here, but to also give this a new purpose for the community and a new purpose for the cemetery itself. Now, to the providers out there, this may not be possible in all scenarios. This particular mausoleum was built in a way that, structurally it could support doing something like this, but we haven't really added any weight to it in any way. But as you can see, as we come up here, now we haven't, started the garden this year yet. It's still early in the spring. You can imagine what an inviting garden space this might be for people to come visit, come have lunch, because we'll have picnic tables and things like that. And then in the future, we're going to put up some cremation niches that will act not only for cremated remains, but as garden statuary and things like that. But what a beautiful view you have from up here. And again, this is not something that I'm showing you because it's a greener option. I feel like it's something that's important because part of the greener options are thinking outside of the box, repurposing and giving new meaning and life to things that otherwise might not feel the same way anymore. So I did want to share that with you because I feel like, many of you on this call probably have areas and places, where your family members are at that might seem similar to this. So maybe you can re-envision what that space might look like with a little bit of imagination, creating serene settings that people might want to come visit, and then honoring the individuals who are already interred here. So what we're going to do is We're going to make our way up the hill, and we're going to make our way to the natural burial area. And certainly that's very important for you to see, because that's what you're all here for, is to, experience and understand, what the options or the availability could be, what you could do within an existing space that might stand apart, make it look different. Funny enough, you're going to find that it's very simple. It's not something that's hard to achieve. You can even take some of the most basic areas, and you don't have to do a lot of landscaping, but bringing it back to nature really would be important for lots of people to understand that this is wanted and this is needed in our community. So I'm going to take a little walk up the hill, and we're going to start taking a look at what our natural burial ground looks like here at Westwood Hills Memorial Park. And I want to let you know that when I first came here, this cemetery unfortunately had fallen into great disrepair and was not serving the community in the way it should have. And it took recreating these spaces for people to feel like it was cared for again, that it had greater meaning. So I'm going to turn the camera around, and you can see that we're approaching our natural burial section, which is not very large. It's about, I'd say, a little shy of 3 acres. And you can see that it's surrounded by traditional burial spaces, which in their own right are equally beautiful. But as you can tell here, as we come up here to the summit, that, it's a very beautiful space that's basically been allowed to go back fallow, to like a fallow farm field. And by doing so, a lot of the native flora and fauna come back just naturally. It's not something that you really have to plan. It's amazing how nature reclaims so quickly, because this was an area that was regularly maintained for many, many years and really looked like nothing but empty space. So we're coming up to the entrance here, and again you can see beautiful views, a lot of ornamental trees in the memorial park, really a beautiful serene setting. And then we come up here to the live oaks, the blue oaks, the natural burial ground, the meadow. And you're going to see examples of natural burial here in Placerville. Now these sections here, believe it or not, this is not set out like, let's say, for instance, one of my other preserves, Steelmantown, where it's trailside. This is set up in a way that it is gridded like a traditional cemetery, but it only allows natural burial. And it has been very well received in this community. People have loved ones here, but have chosen to come up into a space like this because it means more to them to go back naturally. Now, we have the same restrictions as a natural burial preserve. We don't allow certain types of monumentation and things like that, but people on the call must understand that people are people and they love their loved ones. So we do respect. We just do it in a way where we tell people that, we cannot have any types of permanent monumentation that exists, after the mourning period, only fresh cut flowers. But as you can see, it's a beautiful space, and it's not very large, but it's very, very well sought after. And so much so that, to be honest with you, this receives more business than the traditional cemetery setting. All those other options I showed to you when it came to cremation, we receive more in the traditional areas, more cremation requests than we do burials now. But it's the exact opposite here in a space like the meadow, where we are seeing people not choosing the cremation, but obviously choosing the full body burial, and that's actually a very good thing. And as you can see, as we come down here, it extends to the back as well. We have another section over there, which is a little flatter. Here at Westwood Hills, we're in the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas, so we have a lot of grade. And as we come down the hillside here as well, you can see what a beautiful setting this is. And there's really no reason that every traditional cemetery can't, obviously if they have a small area, they can create something similar, which I think is really, really important. And, you know, at the end of the day, being Americans, of course, we have to respect choices. We have to respect, people's religious rights. And it's important that we incorporate and we accept and we're part of the broader conversation, because that's what's going to create the change that's necessary, for the future creation, as I said, of what will be, I believe, the future choice of everyone as they become educated more to what we do. And what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you into our showroom here just to give you an idea. Conceptually, some of you might already know what these look like, but maybe you don't. So we have some natural burial containers here, and we keep them here on hand for our families. I think it's important for people to actually see that and understand what is allowable. And what we did was we just created a very small space. It was a former maintenance shed, believe it or not. We turned it into a little showroom. Uh, it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be any kind of huge commitment. But when I open the door, you'll have an understanding why it's important. Because in the business that we're in, serving families, people want to have a greater understanding of what's available. So as I bring you into this small space, you can then kind of see, what we typically see, in a natural burial setting. Beautiful seagrass, wicker, rattan, bamboo, simple shrouds. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. It could be your favorite Afghan, could be a pine box that your relatives build, anything that's biodegradable. But these are good examples of how beautiful, the artistry can be when it comes to creating these types of carriers, we call them. We have some natural gourd cremation urns, believe it or not. So they're completely natural, and you can see how beautiful they are because they were hand done by a local artisan. Now, not all places would have something, to that effect. But again, it's important to at least know what's available out there, because that's what's really key to the success is understanding and being educated as to kind of what we do and why we do it. So as we leave the showroom, I'm going to bring us back to a quiet area to where I can talk to you folks and answer any questions you may or may not have concerning what we do and why it's important. So I do encourage any providers out there, if you have any questions concerning, what we've done here and why we felt as if it was necessary, I'll be more than glad to answer that. If I have any consumer families here that, want to know why I thought it was important, to create spaces within a traditional setting or space. And if anyone needs to, any inspiration as to how to create a space like this, please, ask today during the live stream, or feel free to reach out afterwards. We're always here at the Global Green Burial Alliance, to help and help create and be of assistance. Again, remember, everything here is free with the Global Green Burial Alliance. We're a family, and that's what it's all about. So at this point, I've kind of covered the grounds here at Westwood Hills. I think you have a good understanding and feeling as to, what we provide in a place like this. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer them. Ava, if there's any questions, you want to post them. If not, that's perfectly fine. As we make our way back down, I'll look for those. Uh, I hope that this was informative. I hope that it was inspiring. I hope that people now have a greater understanding. This cemetery itself is located in a rural community. It's nothing flashy, it's nothing fancy, and it's not meant to be. It's meant to be real. It's meant to be about the people who live here and the reason they live here. This is really all about community. And that's what's most important, is our loved ones and the community that we live in. And the residents here are proud to have their loved ones here. They feel rest assured that they're being cared for in a new and a wonderful and a special way. And I've used this personally for everyone on this call, almost as a like a litmus test in many ways. I've created spaces here to see how they were received. It's almost like a testing ground in many ways. It's really made it possible to understand, what the needs and desires of others are by having the ability to say to myself, let's try something new. Let's see how it's received by the community, by the provider. And it's really worked out well. So I have a question here. It says, thank you for the tour. How long did it take you to develop your green burial space? And what does the local interest in these options look like? So this has been a work in progress. It didn't take forever, but it wasn't done overnight. I would say this is a culmination of about 3 or 4 years of putting different projects together. We offer tree of life burial here, which is, with the cremains. And planting of a tree. We offer memorial walks, as I had mentioned. We offer natural burial. We allow tree monumentation, in select locations in this particular property, and it's been very well received. I mean, we have people here, not only in the community who have obviously chosen it, but we have had people travel from great distances not so much because this was like what they would have considered the perfect representation of, let's say, a natural burial space. They loved how it made them feel. They loved how it made their families feel to visit. Like to see the wildlife, for instance. The baby geese, the koi fish. We have deer. We have all kinds of stuff. So it's really the atmosphere. You've taken a place that otherwise might be considered, I hate to say it, but maybe depressing or associate that with grief. And instead, you associate it with a life that was well lived, uh, the final representation of a life that was lived and how they chose to live it. So it's been very, very well received, not only locally in the community, but abroad as well. And I encourage anyone and everyone watching this to consider doing this in your community, because you will reap the rewards. Like I said, down here at the pond in particular, family photos, wedding photos, it's really boggles the mind, but you can see why people, are embracing it, because it's a beautiful space. So as we kind of commence our tour, I'd like to thank everyone, of course, for being here. I hope that, you can take something away from what you've seen and what we've done here. We would be more than glad to assist you in any way we could to create spaces like this. Nothing that you've seen will break the budget. That I will tell you for sure, which makes it achievable. I think that's what's most important. We're not laying sod, we're not laying irrigation. Probably the most expensive project I had showed you was, the recreation of the top of the mausoleum, which of course isn't technically a green space, but it is a repurposing it to a future green space. So again, please do support the Global Green Burial Alliance. Become a pledge member. If you're a provider and you would like to explore more options when it comes to what I've shown you, let us know. If you would like a spotlight, if you're a provider and would like us to spotlight you so your community knows that you're here and there, and you have services you can provide them, reach out to us. We'd love to be able to schedule you up. And with that being said, if I don't see any more questions, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for listening and attending, and look forward to the next one. So Ed Bixby here with the Global Green Burial Alliance, and I will see you at the next one. Thank you very much.